Okay, good morning, everybody. As you can see, the title of this presentation is around understanding and managing our cyber skills profile. And it's not just me, it's going to be also a couple of my colleagues, Nadan and Rupert, who will take over at some point during this and give you a demo of a tool that they've developed. So basically, outline for the bit that I'll deliver here, setting the scene a little bit with something that I guess we're sort of aware of, that there are some skill shortages in the domain of cybersecurity. So a bit of scene setting there from a couple of surveys. Then looking at, well, okay, we've got skill shortages. What do we actually need in order to try and support the cyber roles that we're sort of short of? And then how do we recognize what the appropriate skills look like, and therefore the sort of people that would hold them and to the level that we need? And that links us into talking about, well, two things. One is CISEC, the Chartered Institute of Information Security, and its skills framework, which you may or may not be aware of. If you're not, I shall give you a brief introduction to it. And that then links into the work that Nadan and Rupert will present in terms of a prototype for a skills profiler tool that enables individuals and organizations to then look at the cyber skills that they've got, track them, assess them against targets, etc. Then finally, some conclusions, and we might even let you ask some questions. Okay, so this skill shortage thing. Couple of sources that I'll draw attention to. You hopefully heard of both of them. So ISC2 have got their annual workforce study that they publish around November of each year, if I remember. And the 2023 one basically tells us that the situation hasn't resolved itself. There is still a skill shortage within the cybersecurity domain globally. So the overall workforce, although we've got 5.5 million people working in some way in cybersecurity, there's still a workforce gap of around 4 million people, and that's actually increased compared to the previous year's report. And in some cases, organizations have skills gaps to the degree that they consider that to be critical in terms of their operation. If I move this Zoom bar out the way, hopefully I might be able to actually see what the slide says. Taking a more localized view, sort of nationally at least, we've got this series of surveys from DCIT. Now DCIT was DCMS previously, but now published under the realms of DCIT, the cyber skills in the UK labour market. So the URL for the current version of that is there. There's also, and I'll just ramble for a moment while you get your smartphones out and scan the QR code, if you trust me to have linked to the right place, and that will take you to the most recent version of this labour market study. And that paints a picture quite comprehensively of what skills look like in the cyber security space in the UK. And a couple of things to draw attention to there. Sorry if you hadn't scanned the QR code by then. Firstly, it tells us that many organizations have got gaps on the technical skills side of things, and the chart in the middle there is breaking down the different technical areas in which skills gaps are being identified. But overall, 49%, so by my dubious grasp of maths, that's about half of organizations have got a technical skills gap of some form. And you can see there also that's similar to at least the past couple of years of the same survey. And also, again, rounding it up a bit, almost half also have a complementary skills gap. So what does that mean? That's talking about things around, for example, communication skills, the ability to actually get on within the organization and communicate to the non-cyber related members of the organization. You know, often those, of course, who are allocating the money towards cybersecurity and those that need to adapt behavior in order to help provide the protection. And so related challenges there in persuading the non-cyber staff to follow policy, etc. Now, if we take a little bit more of a detailed look at where organizations perceive themselves to be lacking something, the survey breaks it down into three main categories: so the technically related tasks, governance related, and communication related. And we can see these are percentages that aren't confident to do particular things. So we can see, okay, that across the range of technical tasks, there's up to around a quarter to a third of organizations not confident in something. But there's even more prominent lacks of confidence in some of the governance and communication tasks. So just picking one out there, preparing training materials or sessions, well, certainly significantly more than a third, almost half, let's say, 43%, they're not confident in their ability to do that. And then if we look at other survey evidence, we often find that people within organizations are often a point of potential weakness, not knowing what they're supposed to be doing or introducing potential areas of risk because things haven't been communicated to them effectively. Similarly, developing policies, conducting risk assessment, these again are rather important areas of security, but organizations having less confidence in their ability to do them. And so one reason they might not have the confidence, of course, is that they perhaps don't have the people with the skills to undertake these activities. So am I trying to say that, you know, the non-technical stuff where there's bigger perhaps confidence gaps are more important? Of course not. We still need, of course, the attention to the technical aspects as well. The point is, as hopefully we understand, many of us within the call, that cybersecurity is a holistic discipline area, and the accompanying skill set that we need needs to reflect that. But we need a means of understanding, firstly, what we need in terms of the capability and the staffing, and also then the ability to recognize, well, okay, we know we want that. So how do we know if a particular employee or potential hire has got that? So that's what we're sort of leading towards here. So we've got my little diagram that's going to build up here. So we've got our role. It's something that needs to be done. But what do we actually need from the cybersecurity perspective to get us to that point? So we need somebody with knowledge. So basically they understand what the cybersecurity issue is. They've got relevant, let's call it knowledge and expertise in that particular area. But we also need somebody with the skills to say they can actually do it. So it's not just a question that they've read about something, they've internalized the information and they could quote the book at us. We actually need them to be able to do something in practice. And then perhaps also we want a notion of experience. Not only can they do it, but they have got some experience of having done it in a practical context. If we look at the adverts that we see around cyber recruitment, you know, there's obviously the magical sort of at least 3 to 5 years experience being asked for in terms of people being recruited. So is that enough? Well, possibly not. I've got a long red sort of arrow there, so there's a suggestion that there's perhaps more to go into it. Let's go the right direction. So we also want to consider capability, so the ability to actually do it properly. It's not have they done it, they need to have done it well. And finally, perhaps, a professional attitude, the approach to it. I will try to do it properly, not just I can do it, I'll actually make the effort to do it successfully. So the underlying professional ethics and ethos, so to speak. So, okay, that's all very nice. I built up a nice colourful-ish diagram there. But how do we actually find what we're looking for? So we've got the notions of the knowledge, the skills and the experience, and they enable people to do the roles. The roles require those elements. But quite often what we end up looking at, I guess, is what qualifications or certifications have people got that suggest that they've got the knowledge, skills, potentially experience that then enable the role. So there's that indirect link between the roles and the certifications and qualifications. And this, well, at least for me, sort of seems to come out in, again, when we look at some of the job ads around for cybersecurity. There's a few examples that I grabbed at one point. And so we can see this rather prominent set of acronyms after all of these. So CISM, CSIS, CISP, CEH, etc. And if you look at these acronyms, and also if you know what some of these stand for, you start to realize, well, they seem to be asking for various certifications in this case that don't necessarily equate to the same thing at all. So, for example, if we look at that one that's the fourth one down, Cybersecurity Lead Technical, it asks for any security industry certification is suitable for that cybersecurity lead. So a CISM, Certified Information Security Manager, which requires at least 5 years practitioner experience, through to at the end there, CEH, Certified Ethical Hacker, which doesn't require any practical experience and is emphasizing a different knowledge and skill set. So, perhaps this is an inexact science as well. And in any case, there's quite a few certifications around that could have some relevance. So if you go to this particular website from Paul Jeremy, you'll actually find this thing. It's still on the website showing the January 2023 version. It's not just that I'm so lazy, I've not updated it for a year. I did even look this morning just to make sure it was still the same. And you can hover over these different certifications in the interactive version, and it will tell you details about them, how you get them, what experience requirements they have, etc. But the key message from this, and you don't need to be able to read the chart in detail, is that there's lots of them and they span different areas of security. So it's a bit of a minefield to try and navigate and remember, well, what does this certification mean, and would this be useful if somebody had it on their CV, on their resume, etc. So a way of thinking about it perhaps differently is to try and look at the skills profile of somebody from a more general basis and understand the range of skills that they've got and the level to which they exist. Now, to introduce this, I'm going to start talking about a skills framework from this organization, CISEC, which is essentially the other hat that I'm wearing here because I'm a board member of CISEC, the Chartered Institute of Information Security. So a bit of blurb there about CISEC on the slide. I won't read that out, just draw your attention, if you're not aware of the organization, to the website. You can find a lot more information about it there. But the bit that I'm interested in drawing attention to is basically this, the skills framework, which CISEC has had for a number of years. The most recent published version is from November 2019. And what this is doing is defining 11 areas of skill within cybersecurity and 36 underlying skills groups spanning those areas. And then each of the skills can be assessed at 6 different levels. So in terms of the skills areas, and I've grabbed this image from the framework itself, and I've enlarged it as much as I can-ish on the slide, but you can hopefully sort of read that there are these different areas labeled A to K. So going from things like security governance and management through things like operational security management, business resilience, and at the end there, things like contributions to the profession. So recognizing the community contributions that people are able to make in the cybersecurity context as well. So these are the skills groups, the 11 skills areas rather. I get my parlance confused. The skills areas, so 11 of these if I counted them properly. And then that breaks down, and this really is the eyesight test. 36, if I counted them properly, individual skills groups. So within, and then now in the framework, rather than calling them areas, they call them section. So section A, the security governance and management, for example, security discipline, it also uses the term. So yeah, we call them areas, sections, and disciplines. But within those, there are skills groups. So we've got, for example, governance, policy and standards, security strategy. Those are individual areas of skill within that larger envelope, and it's similar for each of the other parts. And then each of those skills groups, somebody can be scored at different levels. So going from level 1 at the basic one, which is a basic knowledge of whatever the skills group might be, up to level 6, which denotes somebody who's, let's say, an established practitioner able to lead activities in that particular area. So if you then think about an individual, you think about yourself, and you can think about roles that you might have within an organization for cybersecurity or things that you want to recruit into, if we can profile the individuals, the requirements of the roles according to these different skills groups and the level needed, then you can start to, in a sort of, if you like, certification and qualification independent way, represent the needs of a role, the capabilities of an individual, and have a way to start matching the two together. So CISEC has had this skills framework on the books, as I say, for years, and anyone who's applied for membership of CISEC will have experienced going through this and profiling yourselves against the framework to say the level that you've actually got, to see the level of membership you would qualify for. What CISEC hasn't had is an easy way for this to be tracked for individuals or for organizations to keep track of the skills profiles within their organizations, within their staff base. So this is where a little bit of work that some of our students from the University of Nottingham have been working during the last academic year to produce a prototype to enable this to be done. So I've listed the full cast list of the student group that did this. They were part of a software engineering second-year undergraduate project. So they did this for CISEC as their project work. And Nadan and Rupert are going to basically tell us a little bit more about this and give us a demonstration. I think I've spelled Nadan's name wrong, so apologies there, Nadan, for that. But the capabilities of the tool are basically to record and track skills for individuals, understand the skills across a team, and compare things to a target role. So at that point, hoping that we can smoothly segue between the two, I will stop sharing and let Nadan and Rupert take over.
Perfect. So hopefully my screen should now be sharing. So as Stephen kindly mentioned, myself and a number of other University of Nottingham students have been working on this skills tracker for SciSec for the past 2 or so years. Essentially, it can be used by both individuals but also corporations. So during the registration process, you have the option to either register as an individual SciSec member, or you can create your own team or join a team using a unique code. Essentially, the platform allows you to visualize your skills against a target template or target portfolio for a given role in a visual way. So if we log into an existing account, this is a corporate account, so it's a part of a team, but we'll break down the different pages that are accessible to individuals as well. So immediately you're brought onto the main dashboard. And one of the most important aspects of the entire piece of software is this radar graph, because essentially it visualizes your current skills level. So you can kind of see here what your skills are against the SciSec framework. But then you can also see your target skills as well. So these are the skills that are set out for a given role that you're maybe aiming towards. So you can quite clearly see what kind of skills you're slightly too low on in terms of your level, and where you might want to improve, where you might want to focus your training and your energy. You've also got your updates as well, which will show you notifications of new team members joining your team, but also your own skill progression as well. I'll hand over to Nadan now to talk through the skills page.
Sure. So effectively, the skills page is our framework for the skills framework. So what it does is it basically acts as an interface. So if Rupert could click on one of the skills there, as a user, I can click on a skill, I can select my skill level. It will pop up a skills focus where I can read about the skill and learn more about exactly how I can continue to progress in that area. And then on each section, I can evidence my skill. And this effectively allows us to track skills. And as a user, let's say I was a level 6 in information risk management, I could look back at level 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5, and see exactly how I evidenced that and how I've progressed. So this is basically the core thing from a user perspective on how I'm actually going to track my skills. And then if we move on to the careers profile page, so this has kind of admin and user functionality. So as a user, I can select a skills like target portfolio, which will pop up on the radar graph there. And I can compare my current skills on the radar graph to see how close I am to that, target area. It might be somewhere I'm looking for a promotion. It might be a new role I'm looking to, towards getting into. And then from an admin perspective, an admin can actually create new portfolios so that users can see them. So we can see there, you can create a portfolio and edit an existing one. And then this would be shown to everyone in your team so they can see the kind of roles that you're looking for them to get further towards. And then I think an extension on the admin functionality there is on the next page, on the search page. So maybe Rupert can take you through that.
Definitely. So essentially you have this search page, which is an admin feature. So if you were a member of HR or you had a team that you were managing, then essentially you can view insights into the progression of your different team members. So if we go through these different users, you should hopefully be able to see some of these can be dummy users. So here's an example, so you can kind of see Greg Grint has level 4 in professional development, whereas he should be aiming towards level 5. So then as an HR team, you can then say, well, perhaps we should focus on this piece of training to ensure that we cover this skill set for a particular role. I think that's probably everything with us, so we'll pass back to Stephen now.
Okay, so I will reshare my screen now that it will let me. And there we go, as if by magic, Nadan's name is now spelled correctly on my slide as well. Let's put my camera back on, just to give you the full video nasty. Here I am again. Right, so hopefully that gave you a good insight into then what the skills framework looks like in practice, and then how the profiler tool gives you a means, or gives people a means to then track things over time in practice. In terms of SciSec's wider framework, or more particularly the capability development method as it's termed, the skills framework is one of the aspects that contributes to this. So we've got that, we've got the roles framework, which identifies a number of cybersecurity roles and profiles them in terms of what the skills requirements are. And so the skills profiler tool, for example, can use those roles as targets within its portfolio. And then there's also within the SciSec stable something called the knowledge framework, but I think we also need to sort of play that off against the fact you may be aware of something called CyBOK, the cybersecurity body of knowledge, so that could also form that sort of a role there. And the overall capability development method can be used for a number of things, as we see at the top there. So benchmarking somebody or a role individually in the context of recruitment, in the context of staff development, feeding into things like accreditation for recognition of chartered status and other aspects, and of course reviewing progress of individuals and in the context of teams. And just to flag for those who aren't aware of it, so SciSec itself as a professional body has a number of different membership levels. So there's, if you like, the standard entry points are affiliate and students, which don't require any prior knowledge or experience in the area. It's almost for those who are studying in or interested in the area. Then you've got accredited affiliate, where you've completed some sort of recognized cybersecurity training, but perhaps not got the experience requirements behind it. And then when we get into the frames of or the realms of really assessing against the skills framework, for example, that's the associate and the full membership. And then there's fellowship for those who are more established and have made, well, as it says there, outstanding contributions to the profession. And also, I should say, because I noticed it in the chat whilst the guys were presenting the profiler tool, you do have in the Southwest a SciSec hub. You've got Peter Jones, who was very keen to point out that he's the local chair of the SciSec branch within the Southwest. So do contact Peter with any related SciSec queries. You have a local contact. So to bring us to some sort of conclusion. So I guess cybersecurity itself, it's still in sort of relative terms for other professions, relatively young. We still don't necessarily, as a society and as a profession, have a full understanding of, or a uniform understanding rather, of the topic and what gets included and how to look at it and what we need to actually cover the bases of. And in that context, it's relevant to recognize the importance of the breadth of knowledge and skills and experience that not only that people may hold, but that organizations may need, and where they fit into the picture. So things like the certifications and the qualifications and seeing those on somebody's CV can provide us with indicators, but we still need to understand, well, what do those things cover? Does that match what we actually need for the role or for the gap that we perceive ourselves to have and wanting to fill within the organization? And so with that, that's our presentation bit done. I think we're happy to take questions on what I've rambled on about, or indeed what the guys were able to show with the tool.